Cerebral palsy is a disorder of the brain affecting the motor area of the brain and, of course, the motor skills of the person affected. There are several causes for it. One of the more common one is the birthing process, a problem at the time of birth. There are a lot of ways that this can happen. Sometimes a child can be left in the birthing canal too long, and as a result is deprived of some oxygen. Sometimes what can happen is there can be a prolapse cord, which is basically the cord, is the umbilical cord, is in some way impairing or wrapped so that it impairs the breathing of the child. And a failure to see that and to recognize that and to act accordingly can really cause serious damage to a child being born. The use of forceps sometimes are used improperly, and that can actually cause this. Also, during the course of a pregnancy, there are signs of distress that the child may be in that should be monitored and reviewed. And if there are signs of distress, a C-section should be performed. And a lot of times that is not done. There's a failure to do that upon even recognizing that the fetus is in distress. So those are some of the ways that can happen during the birthing process. There are others too. There are a multitude of ways that it can happen. If there's a situation where you have given birth to a child and you suspect that there was some problems during that process, it really does make some sense to take a good look at it. One of the things that are hard about this is sometimes the symptoms are not readily apparent. Most of the symptoms do manifest themselves within the first 2 or 3 years of the child, but sometimes the symptoms are not as apparent, and you may not realize the severity of it until time goes on. One of the things you may want to look for is things like developmental milestones, things like the sitting up, rolling over, crawling, walking. There are certain timetables that your child should be on, and if you're noticing that those things are not happening, then you really want to take a really good look at this and talk to a lawyer and find out whether there is something done during this birthing process that may have caused this. Now, the reason you want to do that right away is that this is kind of a difficult situation where you have a child that you may not understand the exact severity of the situation until time goes by. And the law limits the time that you can investigate and take a look at these things. So really, as soon as you have any inclination that there's a situation that may require some review, you really want to have it looked at, have an attorney looked at. We've had many situations, unfortunately, in our office where clients have come to us after the time limit. And sometimes there's a lot of different reasons for it. Sometimes they just they have a lot on their plate. They've had a child. They understand there may be some physical damage, but they're sort of a little bit in denial. They also don't really want to scrutinize the medical profession because they're still helping them with the child. So it's really hard to act. And maybe they don't really know the complete severity of the situation. As soon as you have any inkling on it, you really want to take a look at it and see. It's important that you do this because if something was done wrong, if they did not, the medical professionals did not act the way they should have, it's important that number one, they're responsible for that, but also so that hopefully they take some corrective action and they don't do the same thing with another child that's being born later on. The big point of emphasis in this type of situation is to consult an attorney early, make sure they do a thorough review of everything, and do it so that you're preserving your rights. Even if you've gone over the 2-year statute of limitations, which is typically the negligent statute, and you think, well, I've already gone too late, you still want to have it reviewed. Sometimes an attorney can, based on the facts and circumstances of the case, they can get beyond that 2-year statute. It's hard to do. It's harder to do it than in the first instance where you present the case within the 2 years. But you still, even if you've gone beyond that time, you still want to have this reviewed by an attorney just to make sure there isn't a way around the statute, because sometimes there is.